Also important as well, I mean, just to showcase your personality from a different perspective than just behind the wheel, like on a social media setting. Is that important now? Like just to get your name out, to get just the whole name of auto racing out there?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's necessary these days. I'm not a huge social media fan personally, but it's a necessary evil. This is the medium that we all work in now. This is how you find out about different brands and different personalities that you like or dislike. It's pretty much the main thing that people go through. So, yes, absolutely. I think it's a necessity. If you're gonna showcase what your brand or your personality is, or you want to showcase your sport or drive interest to your sport, then unfortunately, it's a big part of it. So we try to embrace it in a fun way. This was definitely a fun way to change the pace of the monotonous intensity that racing is. I mean, I love that side of it. That's why I'm in it, and I think motorsports nuts would all agree. But people also want to see the other side of it. They just want to see what you're like outside of that intense environment, and that's what we've
Yeah.
tried to do. It's
Is
kind of a stupid little. I call it stupid because we think it is. We think it's dumb. Me and my teammate Scott McLaughlin. We made this YouTube show called Bus Bros. We that was literally like a joke. Even the title of the show was a joke, and it somehow caught on. People thought it was really, entertaining, and it became like a cult following. And we just did it as a laugh. We're like, it's very serious when you show up to the race weekend. Everyone's very locked in on the process of, practice qualifying the race. I mean, it's a whole thing leading up from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's a long drag, and it's very, very intense with all the demands of it. And we just wanted to break it up a little bit and have some fun across the weekend, not do something lighthearted that was not too serious. And then, it ended up catching on, and we just have been doing it now for the last year. So, yeah, it's pretty stupid, but they showcase that in the first episode, and people can go find it. It is on the internet to do.
But is there ever just one example, like, you said to yourself, oh, this is over the top stupid, but you know what? At the end of the day, it came out to be really popular and really good, better than you expected.
Yeah, pretty much every piece of the show is like that, and that's pretty much the main goal. We're off the cuff on everything. Nothing's really scripted. Scott likes to dress up in inflatables. We go around, we do on the streets where we just interview random fans all the time. People seem to love that. So yeah, it's just kind of diving into the fun side of a race weekend.
And one thing, when you're in the car and you've got 500 miles, how important is it? I mean, it is important, but to maintain focus, what is the difference between, hey, winning a race and, hey, you split-second mistake that cost you 4 or 5 spots? Like, how important is it just to work on your focus for that whole long game?
Yeah, I always tell people that, you make 1,000 decisions in a race, and you make one wrong decision, and that's your race day over, or it's ruined. Where you take a potential winning result and maybe you finish P5 like you're talking about. So you really can't have, one mistake. And that's not just from the driver's standpoint, it's from everybody. It really is a team sport. I know that through and through, just having been a part of it for so many years. It's my 12th season in IndyCar. And, whether it's strategy, it's pit stops, it's car prep, it all matters. You can't have one thing that goes wrong. It can't just be me driving the car perfectly on the day. I have to do that, but we all have to execute. So it's, over 1,000 decisions, if you will, and one of them can't go wrong on race day. So the focus and the execution has to be pretty flawless, which definitely, leads into it, being a well-prepped environment. You want to be as physically prepared so that you can be as mentally prepared, and those go hand in hand. And when you have those, built to the best ability that you can have, I think it gives you a better chance to win races more often. There's typically a moment in the race where it's make or break, where, maybe even you didn't start first, if you started 10th and you came in with a certain strategy, and then all of a sudden the strategy flips because of a yellow that was, unforeseen, et cetera, and it jumbles up the field, and, you go one way on the change up of the strategy. There's always like a make or break moment where you can tell you've made a decision within the change up on everybody. And there's a moment in there where you have to really capitalize on it. Maybe it's an in lap, maybe it's an out lap. It's a specific pit stop. It's like there's a moment where the flip of the strategy is going to be initiated right now, and you've got to nail that moment. And when you do, it can lead to, winning the race from maybe starting 10th or something. We've had a ton of those days. Um,
And when it comes to Indy now, I think this is the 12th year right now. I think you haven't won in 11 races, 12th one coming up. Is there kind of a fun element to just keep working until you get it right? Is there like going back to this drawing board, figure out a new strategy, working on it until it actually comes into fruition and it actually works? Is there any fun part of that? Or is it always just stressful?
no, I think so. I think it's a great question because it is very true. There's a lot of times where things don't work out and maybe they should have. Maybe not everybody knows the whole story, but it's like, oh, I think we probably should have won the race on that day for these reasons, and for those reasons, or for these other set of reasons, it didn't work out. But I think back on those days a lot, and I come back to that. I love the process of racing. I really love it. And that leads into your question that, yes, even though it hasn't worked out, I enjoy going and, diving back into the process every single year and just trying to perfect it a little bit more, and there's an element of luck and timing that naturally has to come with you in racing. It's just part of it. Specifically at an event like Indianapolis, I think it's more critical at an event like that than say your standard race. But regardless of how it works out, it's fun to dive back into the process and try and build a better weapon to fight with every year.
Baseball and basketball are some of your backgrounds. I mean, is there any similarities in the competitive nature between team sports and IndyCar?
Yeah, definitely, much more than you would realize. I didn't know that until I really got into the top level of motorsports, but I was really traditional suburbs growing up. I was just outside of Nashville, and typically in these environments, you get into your stick and ball sports: baseball, basketball, football, hockey. Hockey was actually pretty big in Nashville when I was growing up. And there's a ton of similarities. I think the team building aspect of any sport is so applicable to racing. It's the exact same thing. It doesn't matter, what position you are on a racing team. Every position really matters, and it really takes everybody pulling together and doing a great job on the day to realize victory. And so you start building those dynamics, team dynamics, where you understand how to work with people and maximize not only yourself, but maximize the individuals around you. I think that's probably one of the most critical skill sets that you can learn to be successful in a sporting environment. And you learn that very early in stick and ball sports, and you're at least exposed to what that looks like, or what challenges might be with trying to interact with teammates and do a good job by your teammate. And you have to be able to apply that and I think excel at that when you're at a professional level in motorsports as well.
Best piece of advice you ever got that still applies when you go on the track every day?
Man, there's so many little things. I don't know that I have one detail that I always go to, but I think preparation is something that's been instilled in me and that I've really learned just by being in the environment and from a lot of the individuals that I've been able to work with, that it doesn't matter how much talent you have, you can't supplement preparation. And I think hard work, it sounds a little bit cheesy and silly, but it's so true. I think someone that is super talented, that doesn't have the hard work, can be beat by someone that's not very talented, that works crazy hard. But when you take someone that has the talent and you put the work ethic and the hard work behind it, it's very, very difficult to beat that combination. So I think if you're lucky enough to have a bit of talent in whatever your chosen sport is, then you really should seize it and run with it and make the most of it. And preparation, hard work, looking after the details, and I think looking after the people that exist around you and that have helped you get to where you are is most critical. I mean, I'm big on team because the team matters. It's so much more than just the driver. And with any other sport, it's the exact same way. It's not just about the quarterback. It's not just about the head coach. It's not just about your all-star receiver. It's everyone working in unison. So it's people, and maximizing the team. I mean, that's what I think about when I show up to the racetrack. And a lot of times when I talk about the process of racing, That's kind of what you're speaking to. You're speaking about, how do you show up as a team and maximize our effort together? That is the process. I mean, you can break that down in a lot of ways and, really go into detail about it. But in simple terms, it's just about maximizing the team together and making the most of the weekend.
How do you find the time? How necessary is it to slow down once the race is over, to unwind, to get off the track, relax, do something totally 180 from what you do for a living?
Well, I think that's a very personal answer. That may be true for me, but might not be true for everyone. I think you've got to find whatever that balance is that works for you as an individual. And really, you're the key to that. Everybody's going to have a different answer. For me, it's very important for me to try and, I think decompress personally. I'm very much an introvert, and it can be a very stressing environment when you show up to the racetrack, just because there's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of interaction that I can't avoid, especially being the driver. There's so much interaction that is demanded of you as kind of the face of the team, the face of the sport in a lot of ways. When you have fans, you have partners, all sorts of individuals that are looking for time. And so, as an introvert and going through all that on a race weekend, I've got to personally decompress, just to reset myself. I can drain my energy tank really easily, and I know how susceptible I am to it. So for sure, it's not necessarily getting away from racing for me. It's not like I have to remove myself from what I was just in, but I just need personal time, and that's always been very important to me.
Now, is there one skill, hobby that people would be shocked to know that you do afterwards, or that's totally not racing-ish?
Probably not. I don't know. I don't know. It's nothing. I don't have anything too crazy. I mean, I'm a pretty normal guy. Probably pretty boring outside of my racing job. I like basic stuff. I like a lot of basic things. I love training though. I'm a very competitive person, like just competitive by nature. I would compete in anything if I wasn't competing in racing. So, typically I've got to be doing something that's filled with competition, even when I'm away from the racetrack. That's just my MO. So training's actually been it's been kind of a good vice for me when I don't have that outlet to go racing. That's kind of where I pour my time and energy into.